I'm joking, I just thought I'd try and fool you into thinking that was Frozen. And that's the first bad joke of this wee little video thing. Okay, so the next topic that we're going to be looking at is Romeo and Juliet. And as it's a GCSE text, as I talked about in lesson, before we closed, I think it's easier if I kind of explain stuff in person. So, if you can go onto Google and put in this, so you see there, like Romeo and Juliet full play. The ones we have in school are, because Shakespeare is kind of a text from centuries ago, there are different translations for certain words and kind of syntaxes and stuff. So some of the wording may be slightly different in terms of... Sorry, let's move that out of the way. In terms of... No, go away. There we go. In terms of translations and stuff, but generally it will be mostly the same. So if you go into this one, it's a great free one that I often use for classes anyway. And all the... Why are you doing this to me? Don't do that. All of the scenes are there, you know, the entire thing is free online, which is good for us in this circumstance. Now, you will have looked at, or you should have looked at, context for Romeo and Juliet before we stopped for Easter. So you should have looked at stuff like attitudes towards marriage, attitudes towards love, towards violence, towards plague, towards religion and belief and all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't done that, I really do suggest that you do that first, just because you are not going to get a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about if you don't have that background knowledge already. So if you haven't done that already, please do that before you do this one. So, every time I teach this, there's kind of a first question I always want to ask people, and you'll see it in the lesson as well. But this prologue, which is basically the bit before, kind of, you know, you walk in, you've got your beer, you've got your bucket of chicken, you're there, and, you know, Shakespeare's globe and all that kind of stuff, and you're about to watch the play. You've heard about Shakespeare's new play, Romeo and Juliet. The original title is The Most Lamentable Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. So it is really meant to be kind of really dark and kind of tragic and such. But you walk in and a guy walks on stage and reads this. And you're kind of sat there going, whoa, hang on. Isn't that the entire play? Because this entire thing here is the play. That's it. That's kind of all of the play's content in one little bit. So you'll have thought about why that is. Why have they decided to give away the ending? Because it says right there, look, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. You know, that's what? The sixth line of the entire play is that a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Romeo and Juliet kill themselves. Spoiler alert. And in the lesson, you know, kind of you may have thought about other examples as well of when things are spoiled and why people still watch them. If you go and see a rom-com, you have seen rom-coms before, probably, so you're going to know that they're going to get together in the end. So why go and watch it? What's the point in watching it if you know they're going to end up together? He's going to try and break them up, and then she's going to marry a horse or whatever it is. So you will have thought about that, kind of the purpose of giving away the entire plot. So for this one, I just want to look at the prologue, to be honest, because there's a lot to unpack with this wee bit. So, as again you've seen about the narrative arc, let me try and do this in the right way for the thing. It's mirrored, so it's really confusing. Oh my god, this is so weird. Wait. Is that going to be... Is that... I can't think how it's going to look. You know what I mean. It'll be on one of the slides. The narrative arc thing. So it looks like... I don't know if I can draw on this. No, sorry. Oh, why no? It's going to be mirrored again. Stop it, Horton. There are 5 acts for every Shakespeare tragedy, and they all have the exact same structure. So it has kind of a very small kind of rising up. The tension then goes, and then it drops, like really drops like a cliff edge. So it goes Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and then Act 3 is where it all hits the fan, and it all goes completely down. King Lear, Hamlet, Othello, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, all of them do that exact same kind of arc. It's always in Act 3 where stuff starts to go wrong. You know, that's where stuff starts to go wrong in Julius Caesar, in, you know, all of the tragedies that Shakespeare wrote. So we're at the very beginning, and this is where, again, the entire thing is kind of told to the audience. And again, you'd have thought about why that is. Okay, so 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these 2 foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventures piteous overthrows do with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love and the countenance of their parents' rage, the continuance of their parents' rage, which, but their children's end, naught could remove, is now the 2 hours' traffic of our stage. The which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. So, one of the things that teachers always talk about with this is something called iambic pentameter, and I'll put it along the bottom here in my amazing editing. Oh, I'm such a cretin. So iambic pentameter is something that often, you know, I remember my English teacher at school blabbing on about it so much, and it's so boring. And it's kind of interesting, but it's not kind of the most necessary thing. It's not the most important thing about Shakespeare. But basically, it's about syllables. You know about syllables. I'm not going to go into that. But the idea is you have a stressed syllable and an unstressed syllable. So you might have, you might have a speech written in iambic pentameter, or a prologue like this, or a monologue or a soliloquy, whatever it might be. So often when people read this, they like to do it like this, because you'll notice every single one has got 10 syllables in each of these lines, and it's kind of stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, etc. Okay, so it goes, 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona. You could do that. It's boring, and it's not really worth mentioning, in my opinion. Now, what more worth mentioning is just getting the plot down. So, you will have seen this on the lesson as well, but the main thing I want you to do today is get the plot down based on what you've got here. Okay? So, 2 households, both alike in dignity. So, you might want to look up what dignity is. What does it mean if they're both alike in dignity? 2 households, 2 sides. If you've seen West Side Story or High School Musical, that's basically the same story. You know, they are modern versions of this. Obviously, in High School Musical, the 2 people don't kill themselves in the end, but it is about 2 different sides, and one person from each side getting the other one, and then that is basically what this is. So, 2 households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. Fair in this sense just means beautiful, so kind of beautiful Verona, where we lay our scene. Think about the juxtaposition there. Why have they got such a tragic story set in fair Verona? Okay, where we lay our scene. One of the things as well you should think about is this, as well as, where is it? Yeah, 2 hours traffic of our stage. So, something called meta. which I think we've spoken about a few times. But if you can't remember, again, I'll write it here this time. I'm a YouTuber. Meta is where something is self-aware. So a poem is self-aware, a book can be self-aware, a play can be self-aware. It's aware that it's a book, and this is aware that it's a play because it's saying our scene. Yeah, they're aware that we're actors on stage, and we're going to be talking about doing a scene. And at the end as well, 2 hours traffic of our stage, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. So they're well aware that you're an audience stood there in the globe or in a theatre around the world, waiting to hear this. And we've just given you what it's about. And now, if you've missed anything, don't worry, we're going to play it for you now, and you can find all of it. But there is a self-awareness. Again, we think about why that is. Okay, I might even organise like a Microsoft Teams thing that we talked about in lesson, where we can all kind of think about our ideas and kind of have the conversations there about it. What day is it? I don't know. So it's self-aware. Think about why that is. Why is it not trying to convince you that this is all happening right now? Is there a bigger purpose to this? Is there a holistic message? And obviously that's one of the big things we're going to talk about. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny. Okay? Civil blood makes civil hands unclean. Think about double meaning there of civil. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes. Foes? What was that? Foes. Get more Nottingham. Foes. Fatal loins of these two foes. A pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventures piteous overthrows. So, you've got a very modified noun phrase there. Really, really modified. You've got two adjectives before the abstract noun. Okay? So the misadventures piteous overthrows. It's not just the overthrows. It's not just the piteous overthrow. It's the misadventured piteous overthrows. It's really hyperbolic there. Yeah? And if you remember, that kind of links into the title that we talked about earlier. I briefly mentioned, where it's the most lamentable tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. That is the full name of the actual play. So, very hyperbolic, very emotive. They do with their death bury their parents' strife. Now, strife is basically a disagreement, an argument, a war, some kind of conflict, structural feature. So, do with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love. So we've got not one, not two, not three, but four shadowing right there. That was good, wasn't it? That was good. Are you missing my bad jokes? And the continuance of their parents' rage, which, but with their children's end, naught could remove. So, without their children's end, the parents' rage could not be removed. Okay? So, think about how it ends as well. And that is basically it. That kind of section there is the entire play. Okay? Obviously, there are kind of intricate details and there are reasons certain things happen. And you would have thought about that as well in terms of the lesson. But that's kind of it for the prologue. Now, zooming out a little bit, you also want to think about the fact that this is written in the form of a sonnet. Now, when we got into Unseen Poetry, I don't know if we really meant or went through sonnets, but some of you will know, and for those who don't know, a sonnet is kind of a traditional love poem. And it's generally about love and some element of an uneasy love or a kind of a conflicted love, or there's some kind of issue with the love. You know, maybe they can't be together, or maybe it's something that won't work because one doesn't love the other, or whatever it is. It's some kind of imperfect love. Now, you can probably guess where I'm going with this, but the fact that Shakespeare's chosen to write this in the form of a sonnet, and I suggest you look up kind of the form of a Shakespearean sonnet. So you've got three quatrains. So you've got one there. Oh, hang on, no, my bad. Sorry, one there, one quatrain. One there, one quatrain. one there, one quatrain, and then one rhyming couplet at the end as well. Now, of course, people, and I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are going to say, actually, love and remove don't rhyme. Excuse me, that's wrong. This is not a sonnet. You're an idiot, sir. Now, that may be true. I'm an idiot. However, love and remove in kind of Shakespearean Midland English of the time would have rhymed. And if not, they would have made it rhyme in some way. But you can guess from the rest of the structure that that's the way it works. So we are dealing with a 400-year-old, 450-odd-year-old text. Right. Have I missed anything? What was I going to say? I've talked about sonnets. I've talked about... Yeah, okay. So if you, make a timeline, make some kind of, however you want to do it. Remember, these are your notes, and you're going to be using these for GCSE. So it's important that you get this down. Please don't write this in something that you're not going to use later on. If you've got a notepad or something, as I've said in the lesson, do it separately. Because, one, you should be getting your own copy of Romeo and Juliet. So if we come back before September, that will happen. And as in one that you can keep and kind of annotate and stuff. And two, if not, you need to have this ready, all your notes and stuff throughout this, okay? Because it is going to be, obviously, COVID-19 is going to affect your GCSEs as well, which is kind of weird to think about that they're so far in the future, but it will, because we've had this time where we're not in lesson, we're not doing weird stuff in my lessons and all that jazz. Okay. So, do a timeline of what happens in it, and then I want you to pick out 3 examples of structural techniques, okay? And on the slide, you'll see, I don't know why I'm pointing down, in the description, in the slides, though, I'll put the structural technique kind of symbols and stuff, and you can think about which ones you want to talk about. But pick out 3 structural techniques in here and what it may suggest, okay? Why it's been put there. Why is there foreshadowing? Why is there conflict? Why is there not really character development? Why do we not know, without knowing the title, that the star-crossed lovers who take their life is Romeo and Juliet? Why does this not focus on the character? What's maybe more important? I think that's it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do these little explanations and stuff for certain parts of each of the play. I'm not going to do it for every single bit, so you do need to be reading it, okay? It is long, I'm not going to lie. It's a long play, but make sure you're reading it. Now, the final bit. Yes, I know, a lot of people love Leo DiCaprio, and they love the one in the 90s that was brought out with Romeo and Juliet, and it's all lovely. It is not true to the play. If you want to watch it, do it at your own peril. If you're really, really struggling with the basic plot, okay. But make sure you watch, at the moment, I know the BBC or the Globe or Shakespeare, the Royal Shakespeare Company are putting on their own versions of it. Watch as many as you can so you know what's going on, but make sure you read this, okay? Because it's your GCSEs are going to suffer if you do not. Right. Cool. So, if you've got any questions, feel free to message me on Show My Homework or email me. And I think we can try and organise some kind of Microsoft Teams thing as well for later down the line. Okay. Cool.